Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome to my show. I'm so excited. I know I say that every time, but I'm really so excited to chat with my guest today because she has some amazing, phenomenal stories about her unique experiences with dogs that will blow your mind. And for something to blow my mind takes a lot. So it's really so glad that she's here. And just to kind of chat a little bit about my own history with dogs, I have been a major dog fanatic for as far back as I can remember. I used to beg my parents to let me have a dog. And finally, at the age of 9, we got a dog, and he was just incredible. But I always sensed that there was something more than just him being this cute little companion with a waggly tail. I just knew there was more to it. And I started really knowing that when I started to develop spiritually, and he would come to me in my meditation all the time. He would show himself sitting on my grandfather, who had also passed. You know, both of them had passed around the same time, actually. And they would be sitting together and give me these messages. And it was really amazing. And then I would dream about him and all kinds of stuff. So when I learned what Leigh Strom does, what she discovered about these furry friends, I thought I knew I needed to chat with her. I knew that this was important. And in fact, one of the things that she has shared with me is that this is really the first time that dogs have shared in this way. I think one of your things on your website says dogs are now unleashed to share what they're here to teach humanity, which is really something. And what she discovered is that dogs possess spirit guides that are not like when a psychic talks to your dog and they give you a message. No, these are spirit guides for us. They're supporting us. And so she's going to tell us all about that and how she discovered this, etc. And, you know, it's amazing to me that they have never spoken out until now. I think that's pretty phenomenal. So let me explain. Let me introduce her a little bit. And I always like to read from what I've written so I don't leave anything out. Leigh had a very difficult life, as she shares on her website. And she had a verbally abusive and emotionally absent father, poverty, crippling accidents, loss, and more. And she was fueled by sheer determination and will and repressed rage, yet nevertheless, she created 3 highly successful careers: dog training, physical therapy, and cycling. She would never have anticipated that this would be her destiny. I know I say that about my own life all the time. If somebody had said to me, "You're going to be doing this," I'd be like, "You're crazy. Nope. And it started with her own spiritual transformation back in 2022. And she didn't realize she was going to be writing a book until she was told she had to. Same with me. I never thought I'd be an author, and here you go. And writing this memoir took her only 6 months. I can't even tell you how long it took me to write my book. So 6 months is pretty phenomenal. And it really helped to transform everything about her life and her reality. It's a book that is really an introduction to what she calls canine spirit guides and what they're about. And all the work that she has done with this has helped her peel back her own issues and have her own life get healed and transformed, etc. She exposes and explains what these canine spirit guides are about, which she'll talk to us about, and they work energetically, of course, and they are amazing. So, one of the things the canine spirit guides insist is that healing, this is a quote, healing is not meant to be hard, difficult, or a process. It's meant to be easy and instant. It's only the human belief that causes it to be so complicated. I love that. So she, I could go on and on, but I'm going to let her talk. And so I just want to welcome you, Heather Leigh Strom. Welcome.
Thank you, Royce. It's so nice to be here, and thank you for having me.
Oh gosh, you're welcome. So I'm just dying to know, how did all of this start? Fill us in on the whole story because I'm sure it's fascinating.
Well, I was in a cocoon for about 11 years where I felt like I was completely lost. I had a childhood that was really traumatic, uncomfortable, and I'd searched my whole life for answers to it. How do I heal from this? How do I go on? How do I step out of it? And nothing worked. I tried counseling, mind control, books, seminars, I did everything. So I finally gave up. And I went through a period of about 11 years where I was in a cocoon, and that was after my last incredible dog died. And she's the first dog in the book, Canine Spirit Guides. And so I was just lost. I couldn't find myself. I looked in the mirror and I didn't know who I was. So in the lockdown, the lockdown of 2020, the COVID lockdown, I received a message. And I was just out in the yard walking with my dog at the time, one of the daughters of my dog that I lost, and we stumbled upon this message that rocked my core. And I just knew when I saw it, it's something that you never see, and most of us will never see in our life, and I happened to stumble upon it in my life, and I knew something big was coming. I didn't know what, but I knew something big that I was gonna need help with was on its way. And what this symbolic message was a call to arms. It was telling me, "It's time to get to work." It was telling all of my guides, "Okay, it's time. She's ready. It's time." Also, it wasn't just about me being ready, it was about the humanity being ready, because I had to wait for a certain, um, development within humanity before my message could be delivered. Humanity had to be ready to hear it before I could be activated. So I was in a holding pattern until that point. I had no idea. My astrologer told me I was so deeply undercover that even I didn't know I was undercover. That's how it was written in the astrology. And I said, "Yep, that pretty much sums it up." I had no idea who I was. So that began the process in 2020. By 2022, I finally found my way to someone who could lead me and guide me through this, a psychic shaman. And the first thing he said to me was, "You're gonna write a book this year. It'll be done by the end of this year." And that was in February. And I said, What? I'm a physical therapist. What am I gonna write a book about?" We don't have much to say as physical therapists that people wanna hear,
Right.
"Take care of your bodies." Nobody wants to hear that. Um, so I did some searching. I started a number of manuscripts because I've had a number of life stories, which are now in the book, that would make great stories, because when I tell them to people, they all say, "You need to write a book." So I thought, well, let me just start with the stories. And I was really struggling with it. So one night in my dream, and you have those dreams that aren't really dreams, they're more of a psychic engagement. And
Oh yeah.
I was in council with my personal spirit guides, and we were talking about the book, and they kept throwing out the title of the book. And it was just 3 words. And I didn't even wake up. I just reached over next to the bed, grabbed my journal that I kept next to the bed just for this very thing. And without opening my eyes, I just scribbled the 3 words down, put the journal away, and went back to sleep. Didn't remember it when I woke up, but I just looked instinctively at my journal, and it was Canine Spirit Guides, which is the title of the
Wow.
book.
Wow.
So they had given me the title because I was struggling, and at least then I knew it was about dogs. And I've had 30 dogs in my life because I was a professional dog trainer, and because I've started owning dogs and sharing my life with dogs when I was 4 years old. So I have a lot to draw on when I'm going to write a story about dogs. But what I didn't understand was that it wasn't really a story about dogs. These canine spirit guides were going to start introducing themselves to me as I really struggled to connect with the dogs that have all but one. There's 10 dogs in this book, and all but one have passed on. So as I attempted to connect with them and get their messages, that's when the canine guides started introducing themselves to me. And that's also when they began to heal me using their advanced technology that they have to offer humanity. So as I healed with each section is a canine guide, and there's 4. As I healed with each section, I was able to move to the next canine guide. They go in specific order because we have to be able to hold a certain amount of frequency for each canine spirit guide. And this is how they work with my clients as well. And so as I was able to heal lifetimes of trauma, ancestral patterns, painful beliefs that weren't true, vows that I had agreed to, as they showed all this to me and they just lifted it off of me energetically, instantly. The healing was instant. I never had to go back and think about what happened or review the session or, journal about it. It wasn't a cognitive experience. It was an instant energetic lift. And each time I meditated to try and get more information about the book, I went through a process of healing. And as they pulled the layers off, I began to understand who I was. I began to remember this knowledge is coming through from my memory of who I am. It's not something that I'm pulling out of the ether. So it was really an incredible experience to finally awaken, which I never knew I was going to do. I was so frustrated because I wanted to. But I also didn't realize I was going to be working with such powerful entities as the canine spirit guides. So it's been quite the journey.
So, I have so many questions.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So you knew that it was canine spirit guides. How did you know that? Did they show up in some way, or how could you tell?
It was an interesting process where my dogs that had passed over were introducing me to them. So they were giving me messages and symbolism. There's a great example in my book where I was meditating and my very favorite heart dog, Apache, showed up. And she showed me that she was part of the Black Panther, which I didn't understand before. Those two were one of the same. And the Black Panther ended up being the canine spirit guide of that dog, which is the dog on this book, which is Oregon. She resonates with the Black Panther and the Basenji. And these guides are conjoined frequencies, that's what makes them so unique. They're conjoined frequencies of the canine collective spirit, the canine spirit collective, and also the shamanic animal collective, the kingdom. So they're drawing on magnificent wealth of energy from both sides. And they use this in conjunction together to help humanity heal. So that my personal dogs were introducing me to their canine spirit guides who had been attempting to connect with me when the dogs were alive, because the canine spirit guides connect with humanity through our dogs, through that heart bond that we share with canines. That's why they're man's best friend.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it all came about. I didn't understand any of this in the beginning. As I was just writing the stories, it just sort of evolved. And the more clear I got, the more healing I got, the more I could hear them really easily. So they gave me their names and the animals that represent their frequency, because it's not just a picture. Like this specifically represents that canine spirit guide's frequency. So these images are very important. And in the book, I describe every little detail about the image and why it's so important and what it connects you to with the canine spirit guide it represents. So incredible information started coming through. And I didn't even know I could write a book, much less channel. Before any of this started, I didn't meditate. I wasn't a channel. I wasn't psychic. So it blew me out of the water.
Yeah, yeah. And so, again, I'm trying to clarify this in my own logically thinking brain, which does get in the way sometimes. But
Yeah.
so all dogs have spirit guides, or just certain dogs, or they have them after they pass? I mean, what is the,
No, well, it doesn't have anything to do with, being alive or past.
okay,
So what I've been shown is that the dogs that are evolved enough and capable of carrying this frequency and connecting humanity to this frequency are being utilized to work with humanity. So there are some dogs on this planet that are like kind of like us. They're baby souls,
yeah,
and they're more connected to the animal um, soul than they are their own personal soul, because they haven't evolved to that point where they've come out of the animal collective and evolved into their own self, like us. Our souls have to evolve as well.
yeah,
So the more evolved souls are able to work with these canine spirit guides, and they actually listen to their guidance as well to be where they need to be able to assist you with what you need. So they're also being guided by these canine spirit guides to actually assist us. And what's so incredible, of course, I think a lot of us already know this, but our dogs are part of our soul family.
yeah,
So they're very much aware of why we're here and what we hope to accomplish. So they're trying to reconnect us with that every step of the way. Whether we're off course, whether we're on course, whether we need a little bit more encouragement, or maybe a course correct, whatever we need, they're really aware of that. So a lot of what they do, the action they take, will resonate with what we need to hear at that moment or what we need to do or see. So the canine guys are working through them to help bring this all together. And sometimes it's a matter of connecting us with the people we need to connect to. So things will happen in our life so that our life changes and we find the people we're supposed to connect to. It The quantum field is the limit as far as the possibilities, with the canine spirit guides and the canines working together. Um, there's just so much to say there. Does that clear it up for you, any?
yeah. And I just keep thinking something you alluded to, which I think is important, excuse me, is that not many humans experience unconditional love toward other humans, but they feel
Yeah.
that way toward their
Yeah.
pets, their dogs. Is there
Yeah.
something about that that's
Yeah.
significant?
Yeah, so we have that bond. It goes straight into our heart. It skips the brain altogether.
Mhm.
And we just love our canines unconditionally, no matter what.
Yeah.
We love them to death, right? We just can't let go. And that's why it hurts so badly when they leave us, is because we
Yes.
have such a deep connection with them.
Yeah.
But that's why the canine guides are working with us through the canine, is because that's such an easy access point to be able to assist us and to be able to reach us on a very deep level and bypass that ego and the conscious brain and not have to deal with all the filtering. It goes straight in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just have to tell you and our audience my little story about my Gigi, my dog. It's such an amazing story. And I don't know why it's so amazing, because I'm so involved in metaphysics and spirituality and all of that, but it just was absolutely amazing to me. We had a dog, and she was just the most wonderful creature. We adopted her. We had her for about 10 years, and we had adopted her when she was probably 6. So she lived for about 16 years. And when she died, she was my husband's baby. He used to take her everywhere. He's a massage therapist, and he would put her in his massage bag and take her on all his massages. And we were the only two people that she tolerated. If you walked next to her, she'd growl and hiss and, snap at you, but she adored us. So when she passed, it was devastating for my husband. And he looked at me and he said, "We're never getting another dog." And so 10 years of saying to him, well, is it time to get another dog? No, never. He kept reminding me of this. He had a stroke about 10 years ago, and so he's not even really able to communicate real well. But he made it very well known that he did not want another dog. So one night I was laying in bed about to go to sleep, and all of a sudden, Sadie, the dog that died, came to me clear as day. And she said, it's time. It's time. I want to come back, and I want you guys to be my parents. It's time to get another dog. And I sat straight up and I said, Michael, Sadie just came to me and said, it's time. And he's like, okay. He immediately agreed to it. So the very next day, I drove down to a pet store, a pet supply store. And I said, what do you recommend in terms of adopting a dog? And they gave me a website. And I got on the website, I looked at a bunch of dogs, and there was one that was just glowing. I said, that's the one. Contacted the foster mother, and she said, come on in. Took one look at this dog. All she did was bark at me the whole time I was there, until all of a sudden she just jumped off the woman's lap and went onto my lap. And she said, okay, you're okay. And I took her home. She immediately bonded with my husband. And she is the most phenomenal dog I've ever had. She has several of the quirks that Sadie, the other dog, had. And it's so clear that it's her. Mm-hmm. And she's just amazing. So have you ever heard anything like that?
Oh, my book's full of those stories. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. In this book, there's 10 dogs, like I said, but they're really the same 4 dogs reincarnated.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And they always send me messages about how to find them. And a lot of times I'm like you, I'm not getting another dog. I don't need another dog. I don't have a life situation where I can, take care of a dog. It doesn't make any sense, but still they call me to come find them. So yeah, absolutely. That happens a lot. And if people listen, they make the connection.
Yes. If they listen. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So bravo. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even, every day I just look at her and I've never felt more love. And I've had a lot of dogs too. I've never felt more love for another dog or another creature, actually. And it just blows my mind all the time that she found us. She really did. Yeah.
Well, that's something that's really important to point out too, because a lot of people, when they lose that first heart dog, they don't ever want to open themselves up for that again. They say, never again, just like your husband was saying. Never. And what I always tell people is, because I've been through this so many times, it is always better the next time. You think you have the best relationship in that one dog. And then when you finally open yourself up to have that connection again, your relationship is even better than the last one. And it just keeps going like that because you keep learning and growing and the dogs keep opening you up. So the people who say, I've lost my best friend, I'm never going to have another dog, are really missing out because it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, that's so true. I was noticing that as well, that, like I said, I've always loved my dogs. I've adored them, but not like with this one. So it's me clearly more evolved that I can feel that way toward her. So
right.
So let's take a little bit of a break. I'm talking with Leigh Strom, and we're talking about dogs, spirit guides, and all kinds of interesting things. And we will be right back.
Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself. Invest in your brand and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I am talking to Heather Leigh Strom, and we're talking about amazing canine spirit guides. And I was just thinking about what you said, that the energetic capability of dogs to assist you in healing, quantum healing. Talk a little bit more about that. What does that look like? How does that happen?
Well, for me and also for my clients, the canine spirit guides know who we are, what we need, where we're going. They have access to our blueprint. They, of course, with our permission, they offer their assistance energetically for us to make very important to have healing that we require. So, we all, I know most of the people that I know feel like we're kind of broken. We've had some experiences in life that haunt us, and they affect who we are now, and they affect how we perceive the world. And so the canine spirit guides know all this, and they offer to work with us energetically, as they did with me while I was writing the book. And they'll come in and show you exactly what needs to shift in order to move you in the direction you want to go in. Whether it's the first two guides, Anthea and Oscar, work with what they call tags. And these are mirrors of ourselves that we have created through our trauma. The ego creates to keep us safe from future trauma based on our past trauma. I'm not loved. I'm not worthy. The typical negativisms that we tell ourselves. Anthea works within the heart realm. So I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. Feelings of betrayal, isolation. And she helps to connect us to our divine self-love and joy. And I experienced a life where I had no joy. My childhood, I have not a single joyous moment to remember from my childhood. And so that really haunted me. Other children can look back, or other adults can look back on their childhood and be excited about certain things that happened. And I had none of those memories. So I needed her to help me heal that so that I could feel that for the first time in my life. And one thing she showed me was that what we as humans think is love and joy is not even close to what divine love and joy actually is. So she identifies what needs to be shifted, what needs to be healed and removed from our physical body, our energetic body, and energetically she just makes it happen. She does it in, and we do this in kind of like a guided meditation where I describe what the guides are doing, who's working with you, what area they're working on. Sometimes they use crystals, sometimes they use ancient geometry symbols that I don't know anything about and I have to look up. And they just move this energy and take it all out and dispose of it so that it doesn't come back. The only thing that will bring it back is if you start looking for it. If You want to experience it again. Wait, is that really gone? Let me just see. Can I feel that anymore? Then you start inviting it back, right? So unless your ego struggles with the fact that it's actually gone, there's no need for you to revisit that. And that's exactly what happened when they worked with me. But as you become more healed, you can hold more frequency because you have to dump the tanks, right? You have to get the gunk out before you can spiritually expand and evolve and have this incredible awakening, which is what they demonstrated through my process. And so as you get to the point where you experience enough healing and you holding more energy, because you have to be able to hold the frequency of these guides, they're very powerful and expansive. Then you begin to work your way through the guides. You begin to climb your way up. And so you work on different things and different frequencies and different shifts that you require to get to where you want to ultimately go. And it's just a beautiful process the way they do it. My clients are astounded at what is possible in a session, and it's just incredible. I'm so surprised every time I work with them because they never do the same thing twice. And no matter who comes to me, and most people, I will say, are not coming to me for dog issues. They want their own spiritual answers, their own spiritual growth. They might have a dog that passed over. They want to ask, what does that dog have to do with what is happening in my life? But they're about shifting energy. They want humanity. They want to help humanity prepare for collective consciousness. We need to evolve as a race, and that's what they're here to do quickly and easily.
Wow. And so you were saying that it's done kind of like a meditation. Describe what it looks like when you're doing this with a client.
Well, I see my clients virtually. So I'm in their energetic field when I'm working with them. So everything that I'm feeling is what they're actually feeling. And I will see, I'll know what guide is going to work with them because before we do the healing session, I've done a reading with that person. And the canine guides will sit with me in that space and share with me what they need to know about their personal experience at the moment, their journey, what needs to happen to get them to the next layer, the next level. And the client will have questions, and I'll be sure and ask those questions and get those answers for them as well. And then when we meet face to face on a Zoom call, I'm still sitting in their energy. So as the canine guide that chose to work with them and offer their service to them is actually in their field working with them, I just see the energy that's moving around, and I will see where they are. Are they working on the heart? Is there something going on in the lower two, chakra 2 and 3? Are they working on the throat, on the head? Sometimes all 4 canine guides, I've had one occurrence where all 4 have come in on a single session and worked with this gal. She had fibromyalgia for over 32 years. She had fibromyalgia, and that was one of her objectives, was to get to the bottom of this pain and get rid of it. And so the guides told me where her pain came from, what past life incident, what beliefs were feeding into this pain. And during the healing session, all 4 guides came to work with her, and it blew me away because I have to narrate what's happening. And I'm like, all 4 at the same time, how am I going to do this? And they said, relax. You're going to work with the client on the physical body. The 2 of the guides worked on the physical body. The other 2 guides worked on the spiritual body, and they kind of separated the 2 bodies so that the spiritual body kind of came out and still connected, that the head just kind of took a 90-degree angle. So it was a little bit of a separation. And I'm describing what's happening in her energetic field in the body, and the other 2 are off in the spiritual body. And I didn't pay attention to what was happening, but at the end, I got a synopsis of what they did. She and I didn't have any memory of that session whatsoever. And we do record it, so she was able to go back and watch it. But she was exhausted for 2 days, which I expected because that's a ton of energy. But on the 3rd day, she woke up and realized she had no pain. And she hasn't, this is months ago, and she still has not had any pain return. And it's the first time in 32 years she's been pain-free.
Wow.
So it was incredible. I didn't expect that. I try to have no expectations. And I was just flabbergasted. I can't tell you what happened in the session because I have no memory. I was so busy describing everything that was happening that I have no memory what actually happened. But it was truly transformational for her.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
And so you work with your animal spirit guides, but what about other people's animal spirit guides? Do they come through also?
I am not allowed really to work with like the individual dog or because people are already doing that and they don't want me focusing there. So the only guides I'm working with, the canine spirit guides, I'm also working with some intergalactic races that will come in as we get to a point where we've evolved to a certain level. Then our history will start to introduce itself to us. And so if we have lifetimes on other planets and as another race, then that will start reconnecting with you as you get to the fourth guide, Eric. That's what he does. He helps us, he helps introduce us to our interdimensional selves. So then in that case, I'm bringing in messages from the galactic field, the quantum field, from other light beings, other races that have messages for my clients or need to activate them to remember who they are. So, stuff like that. But usually it's just the canine spirit guides that I'm working with.
Wow. So that sounded like a real phenomenal event that you had with that client. Tell us another story that kind of pops into your mind because it's so fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. And it's always surprising when people come to me. They have a 4-question questionnaire that they fill out, and one of them is, "What is your objective?" So when I get the objective, I'm like, "Wow, we can do that. Okay, let's just go with it." It surprises me. But this gal came to me because she lost her 11-year-old boxer, and it was really traumatizing to her. She still had a dog that was alive that she loved very much, but it wasn't the same as the 11-year-old boxer. And I know a lot of us have felt that way. It was just really hard to overcome that loss of that heart dog. So I was really curious what was going to happen because, I don't normally connect with the dog itself. So I didn't know how this was going to play out. But when I connected to her energy before I met with her, I just kept seeing a twin. And I had no idea what her history was. And I didn't know what it meant. So I said, okay, tell me more about this twin. And apparently there was some sort of ancestral pattern that needed to be dissolved. And she was carrying the pain of this twin. And part of this pain of the twin was related to the loss of the dog. So I was like, oh, this is very interesting. So I got on the call with the client and shared with her what I got. And then more information comes through because I'm still in her space when I'm in her presence. And as I'm speaking with her, what I ascertained and what I was shown from the conversation was that, and she also filled me in on some of her history too. So then we discovered that she had an older brother that died when she was in the womb with her mother.
Oh, wow.
And her mother was grieving so heavily that this client decided to take on her grief for this brother because her brother wasn't even a year old. So she embodied the commitment to hold this grief for her mother and also to take charge and dissolve it for her because she knew she would have access to the technology at some point. So also she was carrying a twin energy because this brother came to her in the womb to keep her company,
Oh,
to
wow.
try and help with the grief. Also, what we discovered was there was an ancestral pattern with the reproductive organs. They all had fibroids. The mother line was passing along a fibroid vow or commitment or trauma that needed to be dissolved. And I was really puzzled because Anthea, when I did her reading, had one of the canine spirit guides had shown me a part in her abdomen that needed to be healed. And I was surprised because Anthea normally deals with the heart. And I said, okay, that's different, but all right, we'll do it. And so what she showed me when she did the healing section, the client didn't tell me about this fibroid history that she had. I had no idea until after we finished the healing. But Anthea spent a lot of time in this area, actually like collecting all of this trauma, ancestral pain that had just collected there, and she was carrying with her. And she kind of formed a putty with it and then pulled it out like a taffy.
Huh.
And the client felt so much better afterwards. They can, if they have any psychic ability, they can feel this and they can see it before I describe it, because my words are not as fast as the spiritual world. And if they don't have any psychic ability, I describe it to them. And your imagination, if you can follow along with your imagination, that's your bridge to your psychic mind, is your imagination. So but she felt all of this churning around, and she felt the taffy come out. And then afterwards, she shared with me the fibroid issue she had always had her whole life, and that there had always been a problem around conception with that family line, with the mothers. But it was an incredible session. And I'm still working with that client. She's doing a mentoring program with me. So she's really, really just expanded. And she's a healer herself. But, like a lot of us, she's hiding. She's afraid to come out. And these parts of us that are holding us back from our true light beings and from our true path and our mission that we came here to accomplish have to be dissolved in order for us to come out from the shadows and be who we are meant to be. So that's what the guides are working with her on, is getting everything out of the way so she can evolve into this full part of herself, the full version of herself that she came here to be.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is the entire world needs to know this and needs to experience this. How are you spreading the word? It seems like if you're logically brained, like most people are, and think all of this stuff is woo-woo nonsense, how are you reaching people on a level they can understand?
Well, the dogs help with that, because a lot of people are more open to something involving a dog than they would be, if it were just themselves.
Right.
So some people come to me because of this dog pain they've had, and because of the possibility that I could help them dissolve this pain over their dog, they're more open to it than if I were to tell them, hey, I can help you evolve as a human being. They're not so interested in it, that, in that
Right.
context. But it is a struggle, because nobody can help you unless you're ready,
Right.
unless you want it. So, the canine spirit guides can't do it for you unless you invite them.
Yeah.
And that was the case with me. That's the whole point of my story, because my whole life they were trying to work with me, but I didn't get the message. I didn't see it. And the whole point of the book is to point out examples of how they might be trying to reach you and work with you. So yeah, it's slow going right now. Once the ball gets rolling, it's going to take off, because there's 52 canine spirit guides, and this
Oh, wow.
book only has 4 in it. So there's a lot to unpack still, that we need to know. And humanity has shifted, as most of us know, has shifted into a fast forward energetic pattern.
Yes.
So we're going to start clearing things even faster. And that's another reason why these canine spirit guides are perfect right now, because we finally hit an evolutionary stage where we can hold this kind of frequency. They've been helping us since the beginning of time, but we weren't ready for it. Energetically, we couldn't understand it. We couldn't hold the frequency. But now we've evolved to a point where we're beginning to. So it's very important now that we utilize their technology. It's out of this world, honestly, and it's the most instant thing I've ever worked with, ever. And I've experienced a lot of different healing technologies. I'm a Reiki practitioner, and to me, Reiki is really, what's the word, terrestrial. So the Reiki healing to me is terrestrial, and this is cosmic, a little bit more cosmic, a little bit more galactic.
Yeah.
Um, just, I haven't found anything that they can't help with so far.
Wow. So you were saying that there's some subtle clues that they drop in your lap, so to speak, that show you that you're starting to get in touch with all that. What are some of those clues?
Well, so my book is full of these examples, but one of the really painful ones for me was, I didn't have a lot of confidence as a child or as an adult before I was healed. And so as a dog trainer and a competitor, I would be competing my dog, and just by nature, I would win everything because I'm just so methodical about my process. And my dogs were we were very connected psychically. So when we competed together, we were like in each other's head. So we always won everything we did. And instead of people coming to me and saying, "Hey, that's incredible. How did you do that? Way to go. Another win. That's incredible." They would shun me. They would tell me, they would talk about me behind my back and start rumors about me, and nobody was in my corner. So I felt really alone, and I felt like I was betrayed, and also just couldn't trust anybody. And this was their way of showing me what needed to be healed within me, the sense of self betrayal, the sense of self doubt, the sense of this lack of self love. And this is what Anthea targets. And in this example, this dog was carrying Anthea, and she was trying to get this message through to me through this experience. And that's how they work.
Wow. Are there other examples of things like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, and there's more subtle examples too, like Eric, who is the one that brings in the interdimensional frequencies. When I really needed to shift energetically, massive shifts of energy, I would just be halted completely in my path. So I'd get a disease, I'd get an injury that would last me bedridden. I mean, things would make me literally stop in my tracks because I had to wait for the right frequency to shift before I could then move off in a completely different direction. So until that frequency started to shift, and this is what diseases do for us, it's kind of like a reset or a redirect or a course correction. Once we figure out what course we need to be on and we start moving that direction, the disease goes away. So I have many stories in my book about how this worked. But yeah, so that's a little more subtle. It's more dramatic and drastic, but it's kind of subtle. If you don't know to look for it, you won't see it.
Yeah. Wow. So what services do you offer your clients? How does this all work if somebody wants to work with you?
Yeah, so I offer private sessions. That is kind of what I've been describing through my descriptions. I also do group events, which are posted on my website, heatherleighstrom.com. And I do have some actual free services on my YouTube channel. I have my own podcast where I channel in the messages from the Canine Spirit Guides. And then we do a group healing around that message that's channeled in from the Canine Spirit Guides. So you can actually experience their frequency by going to my YouTube channel and just watching the podcast. And there's also some more free stuff on my webpage around that too. There's some handbooks I've written and number of things. And I'm doing live events here. I think I'm going to do in Colorado. If I can find a place to host them, I'm going to be doing some in-person group events that are going to be really massively powerful. Because when we have all the guides in one room, it's incredible. But yeah, so mostly right now it's the private sessions which I do virtually, so I can work with anybody around the world, which is really incredible.
And how long do they last?
Oh, the good question. They're 90 minutes. So it's a long session and we get a lot done and it's pretty intense. So, yeah, 90 minutes.
And tell us a little bit more about your book. Where we can.
Oh, yeah. So you can order it on Amazon, and
Uh-huh.
it's in print. It's also on Audible. I recorded it myself, and it's also on ebook. And you can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, anywhere that you get books. Audible. But yeah, it's out all over the place.
And so it talks about your history. All the stuff that you've shared today is all in the book. And you
Yeah,
have a
it
lot.
goes. What's that?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, you hear the stories of 10 of my dogs as it relates to 4 of the canine spirit guide. So the book is sectioned off into each canine spirit guide and the dogs that were working with that canine spirit guide. So it's not in chronological order, it's in spirit guide order, because these dogs would bounce around throughout my lifetime depending on what I needed at that moment. So it's also a story of spiritual transformation too, because at the end of the book, you kind of see how everything came together. And finally, all these stories of my trauma and my hard life start to make sense as you see the onion peel. And there's quite a few stories about how the guides were working with me. So you get to witness my whole spiritual awakening and my energetic shift in the book with Eric, that canine spirit guide, as that just evolved as I was writing the book. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so if somebody is not into dogs and, would it still be beneficial? Would they still come
Oh, yeah.
out for somebody like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you don't like dogs, it's going to speak to you because it's about deep emotional pain and trauma. It goes through all of my family history with my narcissistic parents, my upbringing, how that affected my young adulthood into my adulthood, and how I struggled with that. 'Cause many people are really resonating with that because it's not just about the dog stories. It's about the human struggle to be who we're supposed to be,
Yeah.
and not get lost in it. Don't get lost in the pain. The pain is here to teach you, and when you can see what the message is, you can move on so much easier. So, and anybody who's trying to get to that spiritual awakening, that is going to speak to them as well, because you see me start in one setting, and you see me just develop throughout the book. So it's so deep. There's so many messages in the book and so many aspects to it that the canine guides have said that it's a study, it's not a story. So it's meant to be read several times. It's meant to be dog-eared. It's meant to be highlighted and notes taken, because the energy in the book is going to stir you. It's going to bring up things that you need to know about yourself. It's going to make you angry. It's going to make you happy. It's going to make you sad. Take notes on how you feel when you read it, because that's a message for you.
And definitely dog ear it. I love that.
Yeah.
So if there's one final message you'd like to impart to our audience today, what would that be?
Life is a journey, and it's meant to be fun. And, the pain that we've been dragging around, we can dump that pretty easily and quickly with the help of the canine spirit guides. And that's what they did for me, which you'll witness in the book. And that's what they're doing for my clients now. There's no reason for us to carry this around. And the biggest limitation I hear people say is, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to let it go. Why wouldn't you want to let it go? But that's what people say. Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how do people find you? Give us all your contact information.
Yeah, so my website is Heather Leigh Strom. It's Heather, LEIGHSTROM.com. And you can find all of my info, including my podcast, on my webpage. You can schedule a session with me there. I'm also on Facebook and YouTube. I post a lot of messages from the canine guides on YouTube and TikTok as well. So all those links are on my website if you go there, and you'll find everything you need. But yeah, it's an exciting opportunity.
Thank you so much, Heather Leigh. This was fascinating. I just love what you're doing. And thank you, Dog
you.
Spirit Guides, for trying to wake up humanity. And do so with those sweet, loving faces and wagging tails.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed
Sure.
talking with
Yes,
you today.
thank you. And anybody listening, I start classes all the time. So if you're interested, reach out to me at perfectlifeawakening.com or roycemorales.com. And I'd love to start a new class. And I would love to have you back on and hear more about all the interesting stuff that you're doing. And I will see all of you, I guess, the first Wednesday of, where are we? June. Wow, we're already in June. Thank you so much for joining us today. See you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.